Hey, what's happening everyone? I am Sir James from Gamerfuzion.com, and today I'm here to provide you with my review for Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, which is available for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC for the low price of $24.99. Now, in terms of the game story, you're going to be playing as Nero, who is pretty much a young knight from the Order of the Swords, which is pretty much this massive organization. Unfortunately, during the beginning of the events, Dante happens to appear and kills the head of the Order. Now, you're pretty much set off on a journey to stop Dante, but as time goes on, you find out more demons tend to be pouring into the world, and there's actually more going on with the Order of the Swords than what appears to be. Now, going over the graphics, visually the game looks really good on current gen and PC, and of course you always have to keep in mind that this game is pretty much updated from its original release, and like I say, just pretty much everything about it looked good, though there were some sections where stuff was a bit fuzzy or not as much detail, but for the most parts in terms of the character models, some of the set pieces and environments, and the different locations that you get to visit in the game looked really good with the updated visuals, and one that I got to appreciate. Now, going over the gameplay, you may think for the low price of $25 there's not much to offer, but to be honest, the gameplay is actually really enjoyable and there's a lot more than what's actually being presented to you. So first off, the combat mechanics, you could say it's more or less of a hack and slash title. However, with the variations of enemies and the bosses that you get to face in the game, each one has their own ways of taking them out. For example, an enemy with a shield, you may have to destroy their shield before you can do damage to them. There might be some more powerful enemies where you have to find a way to stagger them, and so much more. And of course, the further and more you go into the game, they're going to be throwing pretty much at you all the variations of enemies, so therefore you can't rely on one single move to take them out. You have to rely on a variety of different skills that you learn along the way. Speaking of skills, there's these orbs that tend to drop, and of course you also get skill level, and pretty much you could use those to upgrade your character. Now, if you're a new player to the Devil May Cry 4 game, then pretty much what they have is that they have an auto option, so you could choose to upgrade your skills automatically that are more towards the novice players, or you could choose a variations of between novice and skilled, or just skilled moves altogether, because at the end of the round you're actually going to be ranked in terms of how long it took you to beat, your style points, and so much more. And of course, the higher your score, the more points that you're going to get towards leveling up your character, and of course you can also upgrade the amount of health you can take and your magical abilities. Now, besides the style points and the abilities that you get to save up, there's also stuff to do during the missions as you're going from point A to point B, or solving little puzzles. Is the fact that you could also find secret missions, and when you're doing a secret mission, there's going to be different objectives. For example, you may have one that you have to kill a certain amount of enemies at a certain amount of time. You may have another one where you have to get a certain amount of style points without doing any damage to the enemies, and pretty much along the way these are going to get a bit harder and harder, but if you know exactly what you're doing, then these might be a bit easy for you. But if you're a new player, then you're going to find some of these a little bit more challenging for you, but if you happen to complete them, the rewards that you get in the end are going to benefit you. And of course, you could also find Fragment Crystals, and if you happen to find 4 fragments, it makes 1 blue crystal, which will increase your overall maximum health. Now, on top of the main campaign, which is about 20 missions long, you also have 2 other mini campaigns that you can do where you can play as other characters. So this game offers about 4 to 5 playable characters, and each of the different characters that you get to play as have their own unique skill and style, and not one character plays exactly the same, which is nice to see in a game like this. And of course, if you happen to do everything and maybe even beat it on top of the highest difficulty levels with the variations of skill and of course your skill level, is that you could pretty much watch all the cinematic cutscenes all in one little movie if you like. But pretty much overall, this game offers a lot of gameplay and replay value, but overall it was actually top notch. And like I said, with the 60 frames per second, it made the combat a lot more smoother. I actually went back to buy a pre-owned version of Devil May Cry 4 to play on its when it was last out, and I gotta say there's a big difference between that, and it's definitely a nice change of pace.
What took you so long?
You. What are you doing here? Forget it. I don't have time for this.
And neither do I. So I'll cut to the chase. I'm here for the sword.
Your point being?
It was originally my brother's.
Now, going over the sound, starting with the voice actors, and I gotta say the voice actors did a really good job portraying the roles, and I gotta say that whoever does the voice for the headmaster of the Order of the Swords kind of sounds like Gaara from Naruto. It could be the same voice actor, I didn't really look it up, but that's who he reminds me of. Every time I hear the guy talk, I think Gaara from Naruto. And of course, the main characters, I really like them because they have this sarcastic remark every time they're talking or going along the way, and it just makes their character more likable and enjoyable throughout the experience. And of course, on top of that is the soundtrack. Devil May Cry 4 has always had this crazy rockin' music that always happens to be playing in the background during your combat mechanics, and of course also during specific cinematic moments. And just the soundtrack overall was actually really enjoyable, especially from the beginning introduction of the game. But overall, the sound aspect was top quality and one that I was able to appreciate, especially the sarcastic remarks of the main character. Now, going over this game's lifespan, this game definitely offers a lot of replayability, starting with the main campaign of 20 missions. For my first playthrough, it took me about close to 5 hours to complete that, and of course if you add the additional campaigns you can do from the other main characters, then you're pretty much looking at 3 additional hours on top of that, so already we're looking at about 8 hours. And of course, don't forget the side missions that you could do along the way, especially if you haven't found any. You pretty much might have to go back to replay the actual level to find that specific secret mission. And of course, the character customization and upgrades for your different abilities and skills that you could do along the way. Here you're looking at well over 10 hours worth of content and replayability, and especially for the low price of $25, it's actually a really good bargain. But like I said, this game definitely offers a lot of replayability and something you might want to look into. As for the innovation, was there anything new here? Was this something that we already seen before? The innovation here is the upgrades that they executed from the original release onto the special edition for current gen and PC, such as updated the frames per second to 60 frames rather than 30, updated the textures and visual aspect, and of course added all the replayability and additional content such as the other side missions and storylines that you can do along the way. But overall, my experience on this was fun, and if you're new to the Devil May Cry game, then you might want to check out Devil May Cry 4 because it's suitable for both beginners and of course returning players. But in the end, I'm going to give Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition a 10 out of 10. If you guys want to check out my full walkthrough, you guys can check the link in the description down below. Or if you just want to watch the Devil May Cry 4 movie, I'll also have that in the description down below. But until then, I am Sir James from Gamerfuzion.com, where we empower your gaming.